Let's look at some of the continuums involved in human chemistry, forces that attract us and forces that pull us apart. We have a continuum of competency. It's an infinite continuum. But basically, since everyone wants to feel sustainably better, the measure of their competency can be how successful they are, not pretending or appearing or making other people believe that they're feeling sustainably better, but actually feeling sustainably better. Another continuum is the progression from the reptilian brain to the rational brain, in this case the rational reptile, to the empathic or human brain, to the transcendent brain. Right? So reptiles behave instinctively with fight, flight, freeze. Rational reptiles behave instinctively overlaid with pattern analysis and similar protocol with one addition: fight, flight, freeze, or please, ass licking. And the rational brain is not directly wed to either the transcendent, the reptile, or the human or empathic brain. It's a filter, right? So you can be a rational human being or an irrational human being. You can be an irrational reptile or a rational reptile. You can be irrationally transcendent, and you can be rationally transcendent. So the rational brain simply analyzes patterns, uses that analysis to predict the future with varying degrees of competency, and increases efficiency if the rational brain is applied competently. Now, we also have a continuum of cult rank, and with cult rank comes certain privileges. You get to change or influence the cult or culture at the top of the cult rank pyramid. You also have a scarcity continuum, right? Abundance or scarcity. And that correlates with the competency continuum, right? Because everyone wants to have an abundance of what they desire. So if they don't have that in a universe that is filled with energy, it's a reflection on competency. And of course, the competency of an individual is a reflection of the competency in their cult, in their group. So, these, and another, I guess, important distinction is the distinction between appearance and reality. Right? So you can be very good at acting and smiling and be quite miserable or sociopathic, or you can be terrible at acting and feel relatively good, but not have any particular attractive performance. So if we look at the different layers of attraction, right? So if you're in reptilian territory, first of all, you're in low competency because it's not enjoyable to be a reptile. But within the reptilian territory, you can be a competent reptile or an incompetent reptile, right? So the might makes right is the law within the reptilian kingdom, the reptilian brain. And so you will be more attractive if we look at kind of the masculine, feminine, or male, female dynamic, you will be more attractive if you have high rank or high strength. So on a purely reptilian level, it's about physical brawn, money, resources, backup plans, your position, right? So the reptilian territory is a relationship of conflict, and there's a strong attraction to be on the winning side of the conflict, right? So if you can present to anyone that you are going to win the conflict, that you are going to remain at the top of the dominance hierarchy, then you will have attraction, sexual attraction, financial attraction. People will want to do business with you, sexual business, physical business, financial business, because if two companies are going to war and one of them is going to go bankrupt, you do not want to invest your money in the company that's going to go bankrupt. You want to invest in the company that will win based on the fight, right? So you're betting, you're trying to bet on the winner, right? And similarly, in a horse race, you're wanting to put money on the horse that you think is the fastest, the smartest, that's going to be the winner. Within the marriage paradigm, at a reptilian level, you want to find a winner. Now, winning is different, typically within the sexes. Winning for a man is the woman that's going to bring the healthiest child, right, at a reptilian level. So at an animal reptilian level, probably a female 15-year-old is going to bring a female 15-year-old, right, with large breasts, perfect symmetry, good health, shiny hair, knows what she's doing, reasonably competent, fit, energetic, alive, confident, right? So there's probably not going to be a healthier child anywhere on the planet other than coming out of the womb of a 15-year-old, right? So we're talking biology, not morality, not culture. And reptiles are not cultured, right? We're talking biology, right? So a male will be, and because reptiles don't want to go to war with their culture and with the law, right? It's not a big sacrifice to move that to an 18-year-old, right? So if the cult sanctions marriage and sex with an 18-year-old, but not with a 15-year-old, the 15-year-old is going to have a very slightly healthier baby, statistically speaking, right? And it's going to deteriorate. By age 35, you're starting to see more Down syndrome and a host of other issues in both the mother and the child, right? So at a purely, biological reptilian level, the healthiest child is physically is going to be, let's just say somewhere around age 15. Now, a 15-year-old, right, a female, their health, the odds of their child surviving and them surviving is going to be whoever's winning the war around money, around power, around cult rank, whoever is the highest in there and able to fend off attackers with relative ease, that is going to be the greatest odds of healthy survival for them and their offspring, right? And that will often, I mean, in a purely, it depends on different points in history, right? Now, when you start looking at money, right, that's going to tend to be an older person, right? But if there's inheritance, right, it's difficult for an 18-year-old to have enough life experience to successfully start and grow a business to a point of being quite wealthy. Much easier for someone in their 30s, right? And male semen doesn't seem to deteriorate as much. Right? There is an element of that, right? And probably the healthiest child would come from a 15-year-old male on a purely physical, statistical level of genetics and, just looking at the probabilities of viruses, et cetera. It seems like the older the couple, the more the probability of mental and physical diseases of various forms. But the fact that, if an 18-year-old can't provide in a capitalist culture, but a 30-year-old could, the survival odds of a lower stress, higher luxury lifestyle, offsets the deterioration in the male body and genetics with age. So there's going to be a tendency to pick on that level, on a reptilian level, to simply look for strength in money, strength in respect, strength in skills, competency, as well as physical health and strength in the body. So that's pretty much the reptilian playbook. Now, as a rational reptile, right, you have those instincts, right? You have those instincts in the rational reptile, and you resolve tensions with rationality. Like you might be more attracted to someone who's a little healthier, but rationally say, well, that healthy person, is up or down. I don't know if they'll be able to keep, sustain this child. If there's a divorce, they don't have a settlement big enough to provide for the child. So I'm more attracted physiologically to this person, but I believe that this is the better survival play. So as a rational reptile, we inform and override instincts, right? And similarly, you might have the same thing here, right? That's where you get like the pure reptile in the male may be most attracted to a 15-year-old girl, right? A 15-year-old woman capable of bearing the healthiest children, right? So their biology, life at a biological level is going to create body attraction that will create the healthiest and strongest life forms, not culture forms, and not, education and all of that. It's just looking at physical health, physical vitality, right? So, but the rational reptile overlays and says, yeah, it's not worth it though, because that lust, right, will create prison time. It will create cultural problems. There's going to be all kinds of conflict. There's going to be villain. And so even though it will create a healthier baby, it's not the thing to do. Or if it is, the rational reptile will pursue it in secret, right? And so there's a whole industry of, 15-year-olds in various parts of the world sold by their parents or by criminals for the gratification of that pure lust. And that's, that the element of secrecy is removing the social cost, right? And so it allows a lust play to be less costly. But it's the biology that's driving that, right? Because it's only quite recently the biology has not caught up with the fact that we're on birth control, right? And we're not. So but the body is aiming towards the healthiest child. Then the mind, the rational brain comes in and filters that and says, no, I'd get into a fight with my church. I'd get into a fight with the police. I'd get that. So it becomes irrational. It becomes rational to override that pure reptilian play and find something that has an element of that. But you might look at things like, what in a capitalist cult with high expenses, you might look at things like, well, what has she majored in? Is she hardworking, right? And so the pure lust play is pointing in one direction, but the overlay of that at a reptilian level, meaning I want what's good for me, what's good for my survival. It may say, this older woman with lots of money who's willing to be a sugar mama, right? That would provide more survival, right? So that could be a reptilian play with a rational reptile. And again, there may be the fantasy of secret lovers with people younger who might also, right? It's the more scarcity. You have the corollary of scarcity and incompetence, right? So the more incompetent a culture is, the more incompetent an individual is, the less abundant resources they're able to generate, right? Including money, right? We manage to send people to school and not teach them how to make any money. It's remarkable, right? No lessons on how to make money in kindergarten. No lessons on how to make money in middle school or high school. Right? People come out of high school with perfect biological bodies for making babies, and they don't know how to make money. Surprise, surprise. And so then money is in scarce supply because people do not know how to create it for themselves, right? So then, someone that has money can create attraction by associating themselves with a scarce resource, right? So if you really want to, liberate women at a cultural level, then teach every girl and every woman how to make lots of money, how to sell, how to start a business, how to hire employees, how to get promoted, how to get capital, how to invest money, how to save money, and then that whole exploitation dynamic goes away, right? Because you've created equality in freedom, right? And so if an 18-year-old woman had high confidence in her own finances and didn't look at someone for any other reason, right? She might pick a poet. She might probably pick people closer to her own age. You give her an education with absolutely nothing useful, and what is in least supply is going to be sought, right? And it's going to typically be an older male that has the most confidence from experience around money, right? Because they didn't learn anything useful in high school either, but they've had some time since leaving school to first fail and then figure out, what to do right. over time and eventually succeed. So, the older you get, statistically speaking, the more competent you become at whatever it is you focus on learning. So as you get older, right, so that's another of the continuums, right, age, right? As you get older, you become more competent. As you become more competent, you gain cult rank, and as you become more competent with rank, you attract and create more abundance, more resources. Now, it's also true that as you become more competent and fulfill not only your need to survive, but feel secure in survival, that you move to the higher brain and the higher in the hierarchy of human needs. Because that's another good thing to understand is the first need is to survival. That's the reptilian brain. The second need is security of survival. That's the rational brain. The third need is love and belonging. That's the empathic brain. The fourth need is self-esteem, right? Now we're dealing with transcendence. We're looking at self-esteem at the creation of an ideal world and the principles or paths that take us step by step towards that world. And so as we move towards an ideal world, we are transcending. Right? An ideal world is not might is right. An ideal world is beauty, truth, goodness is right. Right? The ideal is framed looking up to what could be beauty, truth, and goodness. Right? It starts out as a reptilian dynamic of whoever is the strongest wins the battle. Whoever is the most sociopathic often wins the battle, right? The Americans didn't fight fair. They were terrorists, right? The British lined up their troops in the open field and waited for the battle to be fought on terms that the British would win with numbers, right? Because if you both agree to play by the rules, and they're the same rules, and one has a better equipped army and is 3 times bigger, well, then the outcome is guaranteed, right? So the United States did not play by the rules, right? Very upsetting. The British would have no doubt started a war on terror if they could figure out how to win it, but they couldn't, right? The U.S. They shot from behind trees. They did surprise attacks. They set fire to things at night. They ran away. Right? And so it's not just might in terms of sheer strength is right at the reptilian level. It's also who's the most sociopathic, right? If one side is willing to poison the other's drinking water, and the other side says, no, that's too cruel, well, the sociopath wins, right? So when you have 2 sociopaths, you're looking at who is the more sociopathic, who is the most competent at deception, and also who has the greater competence in resources, like turning natural resources into guns rather than bow and arrows, right? So it's, that's the level at the reptilian level. But at the transcendent level, it's not about that at all, right? It's not about that at all. It's not about who could tear down who. It's about what is most beautiful. What is most true? What is most good, right? And that's a higher level of competence. Usually people who are traumatized because they're not sure that they will survive are in the reptilian brain, fight, flight, freeze, and please, right? But if you get to a certain point where you are confident in your survival, the next step is to start dreaming. Dreaming about love and belonging, dreaming about the ideal. Right? Now you're in human territory rather than the animal territory. So the human body is capable of being a pure reptile, right? Fight, flight, freeze, willing and able to do anything that works to keep them alive. Can be a rational reptile, willing to pretend to be a human being in order to stab you in the back, right? Very common in capitalism, right? You do a business deal, wait for the other person to be weak, then renegotiate the terms and grab the resources and do it in a way that they can't win in court, but is pure reptilian. It's pure sociopathic deception, destruction, and betrayal, right? And so capitalism is based largely on reptilian behavior, but it needs to have enough trust, right? It needs to have enough trust between buyers and sellers, right? So the sellers in stores have security cards so that the buyers don't steal everything by making it a little harder to steal, right? And the buyers have online reviews so that if the store is too reptilian, meaning they rip everyone off and don't honor their warranty, then they'll go out of business because nobody will shop there, right? And so it's reptilian with an overlay of kind of rational self-interest. And as you move up into the more human level, right, it's about what's beautiful, good, and true, right? And so here you find the play on pure romance, right? The poet, that's so beautiful. The music, that idea, doing the right thing, right? And so on this level, you start to earn respect. Now, there's a tremendous amount of people who are in a reptilian or rational reptile level of scarcity around money who admire people doing the right thing but won't give them $1, right? I'm so impressed by your work to save the homeless. Well, will you give me $5? No, you're my hero. Will you give me $5? No, right? I'm in a reptilian state where I will put everything to me out of fear, right? Because I'm not sure I'm going to survive. I'm not secure enough in that. Or maybe on the outside it looks like that, but I've still got a lot of greed, coming from that memory of scarcity. So you're my hero, but I won't follow you, right? I won't even give you $1, right? You have the people, praising the environmentalists. Gosh, those companies should really do something for the environment. Well, will you give $10 to plant 10 trees so that the environment has 10 more trees? No. I want to have another coffee in a paper cup, right, that cuts trees down. But, I so admire, right? I so admire the environmentalists. So, it moves towards the admiration and respect of ideals. And then that's another form of currency, another form of chemistry, right? And usually, you'll have well, it's not uncommon, for example, that some of the wealthiest men and women in the world would idolize Gandhi, who gave up everything, right? Because they've reached a point where they start yearning for something transcendent, something that's beautiful, right? Or they'll go see a guru that has no interest in money, and they'll spend lots of money or give the guru lots of money, right? Because they want to support something that's beyond the greed and cruelty of the reptilian brain, right? And so there again, you have plays where the reptilian brain of the guru may pretend, right, to be celibate and may pretend not to be interested in money because that works to create a lot of money. If you can put on a really good performance of being interested in helping humanity and not wanting anything for yourself, often you'll be given a lot, right? And so, when is that the agenda and when is that, really the agenda of a luminary or of a teacher of some kind, and right, and sometimes there's a bit of both, right? But there's definitely chemistry becomes look at what you're doing for the homeless, or look at what you're doing for the environment, and looking what you're doing to raise humanity, right? And so if, for example, a woman is in survival mode, right, she may marry or be lovers with the person who's most generous with her financially, but she may admire the people who are planting trees and doing such and such the most. And so there can be a division. One's primary loyalty or core kind of aspect of chemistry will have to do with how much abundance you have personally on a physical level. Like if you are very frail and weak, then someone strong and muscular that's going to protect you, the more dangerous the environment, the more attractive they will become, right? So in a crowd, if a gun shoots off, people will huddle towards the most competent, strong person who knows the most about guns, and they'll do what they say, right? Because the more the danger is, the more the attraction is to competency and physical prowess. The less the danger is, the more the attraction is to the guitar player. Right? So everyone may be oohing and aahing over the guitar player, and then a bomb goes off, and then everyone's, what should we do? And they're looking at the security guard or whatever. And so priorities shift in terms of attraction or repulsion based on competence, right? When you have a strong military that's causing problems and nobody is threatening you, you may attack the military, right? When you have a high threat around the country and the only thing stopping you from being killed is the military, then the military is adored, right? And so it shifts contextually. So, there's another level of attraction. There's also, the level of pain and pleasure, right? Pain and pleasure. So, on this level of chemistry, if you're flowing this way and I'm flowing that way, the energy will flow more smoothly and more comfortably. That's more attractive. In other words, if two white people get together, they're both racist, and they both believe the same religious things, and which is kind of odd, right? Because most racist white people believe that all people are created equal, but such schizophrenia has been present in people for most of human existence. But things will flow, right? And so they'll be very comfortable and happy that you think exactly what I think. We can just say, and they say yes, and there's no questions, there's no, and so you have the attraction of flow. It's comfortable and it's efficient. When everyone's like you, and they all agree with you, then you don't have to fight, you don't have to argue, you can just make assumptions, and the assumptions will be correct, and so there's lots of comfort there. And so on that level, whoever is more different from you, different race, different religion, different country, different background, different language, the more different they are, the more inefficient it is. And so you have the typical anti-difference. So how that usually works out at a sociopathic level is you punish minorities so they will go away, and that what remains are the homogenized sameness. And it doesn't matter what it is, right? If you're a black culture with highly successful, rich black people, right? And they all agree that the whites are worthless and all that. Then again, there is generally resistance to difference entering. Difference in language, difference in customs, different in appearance, different clothing. Just keep the foreigners out, because it's a little bit more efficient if everyone is just like you. It means you don't have this frustrating thing of saying and then you look around and they don't get it at all, and you feel like, what's wrong with me? And then they say, no, and it's not wrong with me. What's wrong with them? Got to get rid of these foreigners and get back to people who are like me. The same cultural clash comes with anything that's different religions, different sexuality. I think kink is bad. I think kink is good. What do we do with that, right? If everyone is just the same in all areas, it's very, very efficient. And so there's a comfort, a familiarity of the family. And so if we would just copy our family, right? And that's why parents always get upset with their children. Children are always doing something a little different than the parents did. Right? And it's so upsetting, right? Because the parents want the child to be like they were, because it'd be so easy, right? They don't want to have to learn a whole new culture just to relate to their children. So you have the dynamic of flow. But if you're highly confident and highly intelligent, then the homogenized life gets boring. And then what you want is diversity, because it's less boring, right? And so when you're low competency, you want everything to be like you, and because when you're low competency, you're in pain, and you're scared of the unknown, and you're scared of change. If you're scared of the unknown and you're scared of change, and new and different people come in, you want to kill them, you want them to disappear, you want them to become like you so that you don't have another thing on your plate. However, if you are highly competent and you can solve all the problems better than most people, you're quickly bored, then you look for the misfits, the odd people, the things that think, and you find that refreshing. Right, so you'll find this element of chemistry, showing up in, ranks of power. So in companies. So you'll find that, for example, the low level employees, like in a stereotypical capitalist company, like the male person who gets paid very little. And so is having trouble, given that we have a strong reptilian element in our culture. So, an average looking, average strength, average intelligent male man is going to have a hard time getting dates in our cult. And so, their fantasy will be a woman that does whatever they want, that really wants them, that needs them, that's compliant. Wouldn't that be nice, rather than, women just disregarding them and ignoring them and all that, right? But you get up to the CEO of that company, right, who has thousands of people that they boss around, they're completely competent. They're going to have a tremendous amount of lower ranking on a financial intelligence and competency level women attracted to them for the seeming ease, like, the private jet, this, my kids would look so nice, they'd have this, they'd be all this, right? So you're going to have a lot of that kind of attraction by compliant women that aren't interested in the mailman. But what the CEO is often interested in is dominatrix, right? A woman that is going to tear him to shreds, scratch his skin, whip him, tell him he's a piece of shit, right? So you'll find a lot of top CEOs, which in our cult are male, are paying dominatrix $500 to $5,000 an hour to be really good at putting them down, because that's more interesting, right? That's more interesting. It's a novel experience. They've got people who will tell them what they want to hear, do whatever they say, take abuse to get money, right? Because in a low competent culture, you have low resources. and you have scarcity. And when you have scarcity, right, you have fear of losing what is scarce. Scarcity around money, scarcity around resources, and high-paying jobs. And so the CEO is able to dish out more abuse, right? Because they know they've got 1,000 people that would take that $200,000 job if that person says, fuck your abuse, I'm leaving, right? So a CEO will tend to be surrounded by people who will take more abuse, right? Someone at McDonald's probably isn't going to listen to their boss cursing them, because they can go get a job at Wendy's, right? For the same, $8 an hour. But someone making $500,000 who's getting a little old and who's not in the top of their echelon of skill, right? If they walk away from a $500,000 a year job, right? The CEO can replace them, right? But they can't get, and so there's an imbalance right there. And so in that dynamic, right, the CEO is going to be more dictatorial towards the staff, and the staff are going to go and do it and not talk back, right? And so what does that confident person seek? More than sex, they want to be humiliated. They want the other side of the experience in a safe and controlled way, right? And so you see also then the nature of opposites, and that you see the same thing, like a rape survivor whose life was threatened if they exposed the rapist, which is a very common thing. Children and variety of rape survivors they're threatened, right? And we don't have a competent cult to defend people from those threats. We do a terrible job, and so that often creates a tremendous amount of fear just of speaking out, right? So someone in that position is not going to enjoy a rape fantasy. It's going to be a terrifying thing, right? But someone who's been highly strong and assertive and popular and dominant, but who has a strong reptilian brain, may find it incredibly arousing to imagine being raped. And so they're going to find that exciting, whereas someone else might find that absolutely terrifying. And a lot of it depends on competency and power. The more safe you feel, the more it can be enjoyable to create simulated or real risks, in the same way that if you've nearly drowned, and you don't know how to swim, you go to the ocean and you're probably going to be nervous if you get too close to the water. But if you are a top surfer and you've loved swimming and you're a very good swimmer, and you've surfed very high waves, you're going to be bored with that low level, and what's going to be really exciting to you is a high wave, right? So the same is true, between younger and older people. Generally speaking, young people do not know what they are doing in relationship because we don't teach that either, right? You can't learn it from your parents in most cases because they don't know what they're doing. And you can't learn it in high school because we're too busy learning algebra to learn anything useful, such as how to have a good fight with a partner and come out learning more about each other. That's a good skill. How to negotiate a fabulous win-win sexual container. And not have an STD. That'd be a brilliant skill to learn. So, of course, we don't teach it in school, right? So younger people are thrown into that water with a lot of, adrenaline and hormones going on and fail miserably, statistically speaking, to connect well. And so relationship becomes a terrifying thing. So anything that adds a curveball, like someone who's really unique and unusual, is just that much more terrifying. You want someone who's like everyone else, so at least you can practice, on that, right? But someone who's older and has had some very successful relationships will really appreciate deviating from the norm in intelligent ways, doing something unusual, right? And so that same principle is in play. The balance of certainty and uncertainty, boredom and chaos is in play. So these are, these are some of the, and ultimately, if you move strongly into the transcendent brain, the biology of a body becomes less and less important. And what becomes important is being around people that are of service to human beings, humanity, to the planet, right? And I'm attracted to you by how much you give, by how much personal growth work you've done to be able to give more to humanity. That's, what draws me. Not, because, as a young person within the reptilian, right? You're looking at to survive financially, physically, and socially, right? So if I can get people who look cool, who have good performance, who are going to make me look good, becomes really important, right? But if you've already met those needs, and what you're really interested in being in your seventh human need, to be a part of something, to serve something bigger than yourself, you don't care about skin color, body type, age, religion, education, cult rank. You just care about, here's someone who's really helping the planet. Here's something, here's someone who's a kindred spirit on the highest of our human needs. Although that can also, right, when you have people trying to manage backlash from sociopathic activity in one area of their life, they'll often, if they've made a lot of money, right, from their reptilian behavior, they may, throw a diversion, understanding that perception is more important than reality, which is a reptilian tenet, right? If you're trying to earn self-esteem, the reality is far more important than self-perception. Screw what other people think. I need to do this because it's the right thing for my principles, right? But if you're a reptile and you're just trying to manage your image, because at a cultural level, people's perception of you has more impact on their behavior than your reality, then you may, give away a few $1 million to some, nonprofit, to build your perception so that you'll be invited to the right dinner parties and stuff where you can do your networking and make more money. And that's a rational reptilian protocol. So anyway, I find, I find this territory to be important to understand that at any given point we're relating to a human being, at all of their brains, at varying levels of competency, at varying levels of interest in divergence or sameness, variety or certainty, all forms of human relationships, romantic, business, otherwise, kind of emerge out of these tenets.